On this episode, join John on his journey home from Northern Wrestling Federation at Hits in Covington, Kentucky. Welcome to the road home from wrestling.
Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock all my doors, and it's the only way I live in cars.
All right, what's up, everybody? It is John, flying solo tonight, heading home from another week at Northern Wrestling Federation. This week, we were at Hits in Covington for our usually pretty monthly show here. I think the next one isn't until March, so it'll be a little bit of a delay in between both of the shows, but that's all right. I just thought I would do a quick rundown of the night. Since Andy was not here, he is still recovering from night one of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 13? 14? I don't know. I don't keep up with New Japan as much as he does. But that is quite all right. So it was a pretty packed crowd here tonight, which doesn't always happen too often at the Covington shows. I know the past few have been a little light on audience attendees, but this week was different. It was pretty crowded, probably like 150, 200 people there, I would guess, which is a good sign. I know this is one of the routine stops of the NWF, and so it's good to see people coming back out to these Covington shows. I know they're pretty special for Roger. Our opening contest was a triple threat match, and it was the man that rides the stars, Star Rider, taking on Alex Hayden, one of the richest men in the world, and Christopher Michael Lotus, in case you didn't notice. There was a funny spot to start this where Star Rider came out first and then Alex Hayden. And while Alex Hayden is waiting for Lotus to come out, he starts using the money as a telescope again. And he's looking through it towards Star Rider, and he looks back, like takes it away from his eye and puts it back, and he's like, "Oh, wait, I can't see any poor people through my money." And starts laughing. I thought it was a funny spot. I don't know if many people caught it, but that's all right. So right out the gate, Alex Hayden tries to attack both the good guys, but they send him quickly to the outside and then hit a double baseball slide to the outside onto him. And then they go to work over each other inside the ring. There's a pretty fun running the rope spot between Lotus and Star Rider where they keep tripping each other and then dodging the attacks that the others are coming at them with. Meanwhile, Alex Hayden decides he wants nothing to do with this match anymore, so he is out there just counting all of his money. The money that he refused to let any of the young boys take from him because he was worried that they were going to steal it, which rightfully so. They're not making as much money as he is by being Sinclair's best friend, and so I understand why he didn't want to give any of his money over to them. Eventually, he decides that he does want to get back in the ring, and he immediately starts using both Star Rider and Lotus as weapons in this match. There was a fun spot where he picks up Lotus and does pretty much like a backbreaker. I don't know, was it a backbreaker? He slams Lotus down onto Star Rider to try and help get some leverage for a pin, but Star Rider is able to kick out. And then another fun spot, Lotus uses Star Rider's leg to throw at Lotus and hit him in the gut to kind of wind him. And then he tries to kick Star Rider in the gut, but Star Rider catches his leg and spins him around, and Alex Hayden kicks Lotus into the face, sending him down to the mat. But the go home of this match was Lotus was trying to hit a superplex onto Star Rider from the top rope, but Alex Hayden comes up and chucks Lotus off, and then he grabs Lotus and hits his like tossing neck breaker, where he like picks him up and then chucks them and then grabs their neck and hits them with a neck breaker. And as he hit that, Star Rider came off of the top rope for a cosmic splash and was able to pick up the victory, which is good because he has been on a little bit of a winning streak, and I like to see that. I think Star Rider is really good, and I'm hoping that this leads to maybe another title run, whether it is the Tri-State title that Adam Swayze currently holds, or maybe the NWF title that Joshua is currently holding on to. But overall, I thought this was a pretty good triple threat match. I know we've said it before, where a lot of times you don't get all three men in the ring at the same time because it's hard to wrestle with three people. But I thought about halfway through this match, they did a really good job of incorporating all three guys, and I think that kind of goes mainly towards Alex Hayden's doing, because he was using the other two guys to really set up different situations, and I thought it was really well done. Our next match was Pompano Joe taking on the 6'10" giant Big Cuz with Andre Makarov. Immediately, right off the gate, Joe starts claiming that Big Cuz was pulling his hair. But referee Aaron does not have his glasses on, so he did not see any of the hair pulling. So, Aaron's not believing Joe at this point, despite him, claiming that Cuz is pulling his hair. Eventually, the action spills outside of the ring. Cuz is standing out there, and Joe jumps over the top rope to kind of body splash onto Cuz, and it looked like Cuz was supposed to catch him, but instead Joe took him out, which was fine. It just looked like a little bit of a nasty bump to the outside, but Joe immediately pops back up and is like, yeah, we got him down. So it was good to see that nobody was hurt in that spot, and they quickly recovered because they rolled Cuz back into the ring, and they started just kind of going back and forth. Joe tries to hit an arm drag onto Big Cuz, but Big Cuz being so large, he, doesn't go for that. He stops Joe in his tracks and actually yanks him back up by the arm, and I think he just punts him in the chest. But then eventually Aaron sees what Joe was trying to say before. He catches Big Cuz in the act of pulling Joe by the hair down to the mat and just slamming his head down. And so Aaron calls him out and says, "Hey, you can't do that anymore." Cuz starts stepping on Joe's back. He does it a few times, just walking over Joe, and obviously Cuz is a big dude, and so it's hurting. But like me personally, I feel like I would actually kind of appreciate if Big Cuz was walking on my back. I remember back in the day, letting like people who were lighter than me step on my back to like crack it, and I remember how nice that felt, because sometimes you can't afford to go to the chiropractor, and so you just use that to your benefit. And so honestly, this could be a great opportunity for Cuz to make some extra money on the side if people are wanting him to step on on their back, to help pop it back into place. I don't see why he doesn't make it a little extra side gig money. Just my 2 cents. So there's some back and forth action, but Joe eventually takes some control. He hits a couple of hits that were really stiff. They were really connecting. Out of nowhere, he surprises Andre Macaroni and with a dive to the outside, where Andre just ate the back of that table. It looked painful. It looked like he really did not know it was coming. So it was really nice looking. Back in the ring, Joe is able to hit a suplex on Cuz. And then eventually Cuz works his way over to the corner, and Joe goes for his little homie splash cannonball. The first time Cuz moves out of the way and is able to dodge it, but Joe is able to work him back into the corner and hits it this time. He was finally able to connect and lands like square right into Cuz's chest. So as homie goes to hit the homie driver, Andre Makarov gets on the apron to cause a ref distraction. Homie runs over, socks him in the face, and then goes to do a sunset flip, like penny predicament on Cuz. And as he flipped over Cuz, Big Cuz kind of dropped to his knees, trapping Papano's shoulders onto the mat, and then he leans forward to grab onto the ropes, and Andre Makarov at this point has recovered and grabs Big Cuz's hands and is able to help pin Papano Joe. Aaron did not see Andre helping out, much to the dismay of a lot of the fans in the crowd, who made sure to let him know afterwards. And like always, Aaron pulled his eyeballs out and said, I didn't see it. So Big Cuz picks up a victory, and we move on to our next match, which is a NWF Tag Team title match. It is the Hollywood Blondes, Adam Swayze with Rex, his body double, and Gideon Weinstein taking on the Native Sons. At least down at PTW, they're the Native Sons. I don't think they're called that up here in NWF. It is DC and Lexus Montez. Right off the gate, Rex lets everyone know that he wants to fight the other big guy. And so he and DC start the match. The first lockup, DC has the control for the most part, but Rex is able to reverse it into the turnbuckle, where he pushes him in there and, kind of does the similar thing that Jay does, where he's like, I'm not going to cheat. And he doesn't cheat. He just kind of pushes off, and so they lock up again. This time, he calls for a take two. And this time they lock up, and DC shoves Rex into the ropes. And so the ref breaks it up. And so Rex announces, all right, we're going to do a take three. And this time, he doesn't waste any effort pushing each other around in the lockup. He just immediately grabs DC's braids and just pulls him down to the mat and slams his head. DC gets back up, hits a big shoulder block, and then a senton onto Rex, which causes him to go scurrying over to the ropes and tags in Swayze. And DC follows suit and tags in Lexus. Swayze tries to hang with Lexus in the ring with some kicks, but obviously Lexus Montez is way too good at kicking people, and Swayze, that's not your thing. You need to get your own shit. So Lexus is able to block most of Adam Swayze's kicks, even catching his feet at times. At one point, he does a cartwheel and then a double feet drop kick, a double foot drop kick to Adam Swayze's face. But that's only good for a 2 count. Rex gets tagged back in and lands a big side slam onto Lexus after Montez slips on the ropes a little bit and isn't able to get the offense that he was hoping for. DC at this point kind of comes in, and all 4 guys kind of start scuffling in the ring. DC gets in and battles Rex a little bit. DC tries to hit a Samoan drop on Swayze, but Swayze is able to wiggle out. And in this distraction, Gideon gets on the apron and distracts Aaron, which allows Adam Swayze to hit a low blow onto Lexus Montez, DC. Adam Swayze hits a low blow on DC, which causes him to kind of be out of commission at this point. And then Lexus goes for a sliced bread number 2. Which crap? Why can I not remember what his name for that is? I'm real sorry. Real sorry, Lexus, on that one. So he tries to go for a sliced bread number 2, but Rex catches Lexus while he's, doing his backflip, and he and Swayze hit a super big ending on the Lexus, and they are able to pick up the victory and retain their tag team championships. So Adam Swayze remains Swayze 2 belts for now. Our next match is Andrew Right Now Reed, the King of Rock, taking on the Swinger. It was real interesting at the start of this match. Andrew Reed was acting real nervous and uneasy about about Swinger and the more provocative movements he was doing towards him. It was confusing to me because if Andrew Reed is the King of Rock, this is some stuff that happens at rock shows. There's people in the crowd that are gyrating and, moving their hips and swaying back and forth and being real provocative. And if you're the King of Rock, you should be used to this kind of antics from the people that are in the crowd. But Andrew Reed wanted nothing to do with it, which is fine, I guess. Your choice. But the people who loved this, the crowd, they freaking loved the Swinger. They were into any type of sexual thing he was doing tonight, which was, I'm here for it, but I'm not used to other people being super here for it. So anyways, Swinger is able to get a rear view in the corner. He tries to do a paradise lock to Reed, but isn't able to quite get it fully in. But he is able to fully get the butt slaps in on Andrew Reed. He spanks Andrew a couple times before Andrew eventually, breaks out of it. Then Andrew Reed causes Swinger to go outside of the ring, and as Swinger was coming back in, Andrew hit a Canadian double front knee, like a backstabber, but to the front. He was able to hit like a front backstabber to Swinger, but it was only good enough to get a 2 count. But from here, he kind of takes control. And then at this point, I kind of noticed another really odd thing. There's a little kid sitting a few seats down from me, and halfway through this match, you just hear, "Go Swinger! Swinger, go! Go Swinger!" And I'm like, what the heck? This little 5-year-old is cheering for the Swinger, which again, I'm totally cool for. He's just not necessarily the audience that I think the target audience, the demographic that Swinger is typically going for. So it's cool to see that Swinger, isn't the bad guy that typically the over-sexualized characters are, and he's not someone that people are booing. He's now full-fledged, people are cheering for him, and I am so excited for that because I think Swinger's great. He's been putting in the work, and I think he's a fantastic guy who does a lot of really hard-hitting moves that you don't always see at NWF, and so I greatly appreciate it. So anyways, the little kid apparently is able to really boost Swinger back up because he is able to get another running rear view in the middle of the ring, and then he hits a neck teeny, but it's only good for a 2 count. Andrew Reed tries to chase Swinger to the different turnbuckles, but catches an elbow to the face after the second time. Swinger starts to do a 10 count punch in the corner, and he gets the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and instead of continuing, he starts to gyrate on Andrew Reed's face, and Reed does not like that, so he ducks underneath, punches Swinger in the back of both of his knees, causing his knees to buckle, and then fall down onto the second rope, split leg onto the second rope. And then Andrew Reed hits a backstabber from there. Again, it's only good for a 2 count, and then we kind of get our finishing segment of moves here. Swinger tries to get a hammerlock DDT, or I think we called it the ST DDT one time, the hammerlock DDT. So Swinger tries to go for the STDT, whatever. He goes for the hammerlock DDT, but Andrew Reed is able to reverse out of it, hit a GTS, and it is good for the 3 count. They announced that they will be back on March 7th, and at that show we will get a rematch between Big Cuz and Pompano Joe. And then that leads us to our next match, which is David, not great beard, Tyler, going against Lord, real nice beard, Crew. Crew on his entrance goes to do his one leg on the bottom rope, one leg over the top, then to the second, and then his fist kiss punch thing. He goes to do that, and his foot slips, and he immediately starts yelling at the young boys outside the ring and says, "Who tightened these ropes?" And I mean, none of them want to admit that it was them. And he just is not pleased with the tightness of the ropes. Hey, I wouldn't be either, I guess, if I was a wrestler. So the match starts. DT tries to chop Lord Crew a couple times, and it is not a good call. Immediately, Lord Crew comes back with his own chops and just cracks David Tyler twice. DT sort of dodges out of the way of one of Crew's attacks in the corner. So Crew was running towards the turnbuckle. DT kind of jumps out of the way, but Crew looks back and kicks David Tyler in the face, and then immediately jumps over and does his leaping bulldog move that he does, which usually he does it when he's running and he leaps over them, but this one's from the second rope over, and I thought it looked a lot more lethal than usual. I thought it looked really good. Crew sets up David Tyler on the middle of the second rope to do his leaping leg drop. And as he was jumping up to go do the leg drop, DT pulls himself up and totally dodges the attack, and so Crew ends up hitting ass first onto the mat and just writhing in pain. DC hits a really smooth body slam. I feel like that's a weird thing to note, but a body slam, everybody kind of does a body slam, and most of the time they're not bad, but this one looked real smooth, just really fluid. I thought it looked really nice, so I made sure to note it. So he hits a really smooth body slam and then a knee to Crew's temple, but it's only good for a 2 count. They exchanged some strikes, with Cruz obviously looking a lot better. He was hitting a lot harder than DC was. Even a few times it looked like he was, catching, because you can't punch with a closed fist in wrestling. You got to have an open hand, and it looked like there was a few times where Cruz's hand was so open that it almost looked like he was just slapping DC or DT in the ear. And gosh, me having bad ears knows that is not a good feeling, having pressure on your ear like that. And so Cruz, his looked a lot better. DT is eventually able to hit a DDT on Lord Crew, and Crew sells it like one of the best people to ever hit a DDT. RVD back in the day would do these spike DDTs where he would just land like on the top of his head for the DDT. And Crew did that in this match, and it looked really good. He sold that DDT like a champion. I really liked it. DT tries to get his really shiny unused chain, but Aaron the ref wrestles it out of his hands. Crew hits his backbreaker onto his knee, and then his like spinning face buster, and then he is able to get his hanging leg drop. He goes for the big boot, or like the brogue kick, but DC ducks it and then hits his running knee and a gut wrench, like side slam for a 2 count. He grabs his chain, but Aaron takes it again this time and immediately tells Dallas, who has recovered from his attack against Titan, he tells Dallas, hey, take this, protect it with your life, make sure it doesn't make its way back in this ring. But DT, being the mad dog that he is, knows he's got chains buried outside the ring in other spots. And so he goes over, digs up the chain that he hid on the other side of the ring, wraps it around his fist, clocks Crew with it, and is able to get the pinfall. So David, not so great beard Tyler, picks up another victory, and he continues to just be the foaming mouth dog that keeps sneaking in victories left and right. After that, we have intermission. Allie. I went with Allie. Andy, like I said, wasn't here tonight. Allie and her friend Katie. Allie got her photo with Miss Callie, because that is one of the main reasons we were here tonight. She really wanted to support Miss Callie in her return match. Neither of us have ever seen Miss Callie wrestle in the ring. We've just heard about it from legend, and so we were excited to see her back in action. And then we went and got some candy, some snacks, talked to couple people, and then made our way back to our seats after they started ringing the bell. They run another promo for the next time they are at Hits, and they rehash that we are seeing Papano Joe versus Big Cuz again in a rematch. And they also let us know about another match that I'm excited to see, because I've never seen it before, I don't think. And it is David, Mad Dog, not that great beard Tyler, going against, drum roll please, Star Rider. Huh. That's a feud I've been wanting to see. But, hey, whatever. I know that they always have really good matches. They're both good wrestlers, so, you know, even if it is the 755th time I've seen the match, I know that they both put on a good show, and so I know it'll be a good one. Our next match is a tag team match. It is the 22-year-old stud, Jay Donaldson, teaming with the Warlock, the freshly slimmed down, slightly shorter version of the Warlock, with Andre Macaroni taking on the Natty Boys, Dustin Jobs and Stewie Staggs. I noticed right out the gate that Warlock doesn't know how to say anything else besides Warlock. It's very much like a Pokemon, how like Pikachu can only say like Pika, and Jigglypuff can only like sing its name. Warlock apparently can only keep saying Warlock, because he's holding up the W symbol for Jay's winner, and instead of saying winner, he just keeps saying Warlock. It was funny. I don't know if that's what he was going for, but it worked. So Warlock and Stewie start the match. Warlock keeps trying to do headlocks on Stewie and get some kind of offense in, but he is not strong enough to do anything. Stewie hits a couple shoulder blocks, and then Warlock's had enough, and he goes and tags out to Jay, and Dustin gets tagged in for Stewie. And immediately Jay lets everyone know that he is refusing to put his face in Dustin's armpit. He does not want to go to Pity City tonight, and that's a sure sign that he's going to go to Pity City tonight. At one point, Dustin sidesteps Jay, sending him flying to the outside. And he trips over the top rope and just kind of lands face first to the outside. And clumsy Jay climbs back in and goes to get back in and trips over the top or the middle rope and face plants again. Poor guy. It's like a new giraffe or a new horse, just trying to learn how to use his legs. He's going to get there eventually, guys. I know it. Once he's back in the ring, Warlock comes in to check on him. Stewie decides he wants to join the party. He grabs Dustin by the head, gets him in a headlock, and says, "I'm going to use him as a battering ram." And he starts to take out everybody. He runs Dustin's head into Jay Donaldson, runs him into the Warlock. By this point, for some reason, Andre Makarov decides he's going to get on the apron, and he gets a headbutt to the stomach as well. After everybody kind of recovered, Jay hits a Canadian dropkick to Stewie onto the outside. Then he comes back in and tries to hit a running knee onto Dustin, but instead, Dustin moves out of the way, and Warlock gets the knee to the face. Dustin sends Jay somersaulting over the top rope. Like, usually it's like a backdrop. No, Jay literally did like a full 360 flip outside of the ring onto the ground. Jay's a madman. I love watching Jay. Warlock gets bent over the middle rope, and Jay by this point kind of makes his way back into the ring. And I think Warlock got excuse me. I think Warlock got thrown into the corner ring post from the inside of the ring and kind of just was laying there. And so the Natty Boys, they say, "We're not going to Pity City, we're going somewhere else." And so they both grab Jay by the back of the head and they shove his face into the Warlock's butt, and Jay is just having to go to a different kind of Pity City than he's used to. And as soon as he comes up for air from there, gasping for air, obviously, he immediately makes a stop at Pity City. So not only does he get a face full of beehole, he also gets a face full of nasty Dustin Jobs pits. And then they hit the pit slam on Warlock, and the Natty Boys pick up the victory here tonight. Our next contest was for the Northern Wrestling Federation Championship. It was the Outlaw, Matt Stevens, taking on Joshua, one of my favorite wrestlers. I know he's not Andy's, but I'm allowed to speak highly of him now because Andy's not here to tell me no. And so we get a surprise for this match. Aaron, who has been the marathon man so far and has reffed every single match, not to the pleasure of the audience, because a lot of the people in the crowd kept booing him and saying that he was making bad calls and telling him that he needs glasses, which the joke's on them. Aaron actually wears glasses, and he just can't wear them in the ring because he gets hit in the face sometimes, and we don't need broken glass inside of his eyeballs because that would be bad. So, you guys. Anyways, so Ref Nick comes out to officiate this match, making it so that Aaron is not an Iron Man tonight like we thought he was going to be. Before the match starts, Tammy comes over and she suggests that we should start making a drinking game out of every time Joshua says, "Made for this." Because if we just took a sip of a beer, we would probably be wasted by the end of the match. Definitely by the end of the show. And if we did shots, it'd be lethal. But I think we should take her up on that offer at the next Ludlow show, which I think is in early February. I think we should try that. We should try and take a sip of a beer every time he says "made for this," and we'll see how it turns out. But anyways, back to the match. Matt hits a good DDT, which causes Josh to scramble to the outside. Stevens tries to run out and dive onto Joshua, but gets a forearm to the face instead. As Josh is making his way back into the ring, Matt Stevens kicks him in the face, and then he goes for his diving DDT to the apron, but Joshua catches him and then uses the momentum to pretty much toss Matt abdomen first into the top rope, hanging him up on there. Josh remains control for a good time, like a good portion of the match after this, but he isn't able to finish him off quite yet. He catches Matt for a quick Falcon Arrow variant. It wasn't quite the full extent that we're used to, but it was like a similar fashion. It was just like a real snap, like Falcon Arrow. He grabs a chair and tucks it into one of the corners. I don't know why the ref didn't just grab the chair and throw it to the outside, because usually you're not allowed to use, weapons in a match. But hey, they didn't do it. It's fine, whatever. Matt's able to make somewhat of a comeback with a surprise super kick to Joshua's face. Then he hits a double knee, sending Josh to the outside, and then he's able to hit a dive, this time to the outside onto Joshua. Back in the ring, Joshua goes for a torture rack, but Matt Stevens is able to wiggle out of it. He then accidentally kicks Nick, who Joshua, at this point, had grabbed. I'm pretty sure I just watched a drug deal go down in front of my house. I just got home a few minutes ago, and there was like a weird bag sitting outside my neighbor's truck, and another car just like backed halfway down the street, pulled to the side, grabbed the bag, and now they're driving off. Super sketchy. Anyways, back to the match. Drug deals. Woo! Back in the ring, yeah. Joshua tries to get a torture rack. Matt's able to wiggle out. And after he wiggles out, Joshua kind of grabs the referee and pulls him towards him. And Matt Stevens doesn't notice this and goes for a super kick. And he super kicks Nick in the face. And while the ref is knocked down, Josh nails Matt with the chair that is still inside the ring. Aaron comes, he's the Flash. He comes from the back and runs in and starts counting. It's only good for a 2. And Josh was not pleased with this. And so he goes and grabs the NWF title and tries to hit Matt with that. But Aaron's is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You can't do that. And so Matt Stevens comes running towards Joshua, and Josh moves out of the way, and Matt takes out Aaron this time. And so Joshua grabs the belt back, and at this point, Nick starts to recover and is, wiping the sleep out of his eyes because he's been taking a nap. And he sees Joshua hit Matt Stevens with the belt. And he starts accusing Josh and saying, what are you doing? You can't use the belt in here. What are you doing? You can't do that. And so he goes to disqualify Joshua. But before he can get the bell rung to disqualify him, he then clocks Nick with the NWF title. And so now we have both refs down. But as Joshua was going for the pin, he kind of shakes Aaron a little bit, because Matt Stevens is still knocked out because he got hit with the title. I think I mentioned that. So he got hit with the title, and so he shakes Aaron a little bit, gets him back up, and then is able to get the victory that way through dirty tactics. And so Aaron counts to 3. Joshua's music starts to play, and we thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. Post-match, Roger Ruffin comes out and he says everyone is tired of Joshua being a bully and a cheater, and he doesn't like the way things are going. He doesn't like how Joshua is just being a scumbag and a slime ball. And so he says next show we are going to have a title rematch, and Matt Stevens is going to get another shot at the NWF title, and it's going to be Joshua's last time with that championship belt, which I don't know if that foreshadows. I'm pretty sure Larry's getting a title shot at the Fairfield show in February, or is it this month, January? I don't know. Joshua could lose it before then, but if he doesn't, the next Covington show, Roger guarantees that this will be his last time with that NWF title, because Matt Stevens is going to take it, and there is going to be a special guest referee officiating that match to make sure that nothing happens and make sure that Josh can't bully and cheat his way out of it this time. But he does not disclose who that special guest referee will be for that match, which is fine. Let the suspense build a little bit. And that brings us to our main event of the evening, which I'm kind of surprised was the main event. I figured Joshua and Matt Stevens would be the main event, but I'm happy that it wasn't. The main match advertised for this match was Ella and Selena Dean. She's little and mean, taking on the NWF Women's Revolution Champion Nikki Victory and the NWF Hall of Famer Miss Callie. And like most of our shows, we don't tend to give away everything that happened in the main event, because this gives you a reason to come to these shows and support local indie wrestling. If you would have asked me 2.5, 3 years ago, would I be coming to independent wrestling shows every single weekend, I would have been like, what? We have independent wrestling in the area? So I think it's super important that we get out to these shows and just help, watch the future happen in front of us. It's important, I think. And we have a lot of good talent in the area that it's good to get out and check out. But I will give you a couple spots from this main event match that I thought were pretty sweet. Nikki Victory hits a rolling cutter on Selena. And so what I mean by a rolling cutter is she kind of gets her in a headlock, has Selena head on her shoulder, and they roll forward, and as they both kind of pop back up from this roll, Nikki hits Selena with a cutter. I thought it looked really nice, and it was a lot different than the baby cutter that she's been doing here recently. And I really like this rolling one. I thought it was really good looking. Another really fun spot, Ella's in the ring, and she is working over Nikki Victory and has her pretty knocked out. And so she slowly pulls Nikki over towards her turnbuckle to tag her out with Miss Callie. And so she starts taunting Miss Callie by acting like she's going to tag out Nikki Victory for her. And she keeps reaching over come on, Miss Callie, you can do it, you can do it. But Miss Callie is not the tallest person in the world, so she really couldn't reach over to tag out Nikki Victory. But if we had tag rope, she could have maybe stood on the middle and leaned forward and did it. I don't know, maybe. I just thought it was a really clever way. And then there was another spot where Callie runs in after Selena comes over and kind of shoves Callie in the face. So Callie, being all riled up, gets in and starts to try and chase after her. But Aaron stops her because, the good guys are not allowed to be in the ring at the same time. Both of them aren't. Only the bad guys are. And so during this distraction, Ella and Selena are able to hit a double stunner onto Nikki's neck on the top rope. They were both sitting on the apron, and they grabbed Nikki by the throat and hit stunner on her on the top rope. I thought it looked really nice as well. But the go home of this match, Callie is able to get the hot tag. She comes in and runs wild on both of the bad girls, hits a body splash on both of them. She tags out to Nikki, who hits a crossbody on Selena Dean and gets the victory. just like her name says she would. So our winners are Miss Callie and Nikki Victory. And so the bad guys got what was coming to them, which Miss Callie promised us during an intermission that's what was going to happen tonight. So good for her, being a woman of her word. And that's it. That is our NWF Hits in Covington show. There was nothing like that stood out totally like over the top for me. I thought it was kind of our standard NWF show, which means we got good wrestling kind of top to bottom. I've never gone to an NWF show and been like disappointed that I went to it, because they know what they're doing there, and they put on really good matches that tell stories and have consistently good wrestling in them. That's kind of one of the staples that they're known for. And I always enjoy that. I always know I'm going to get my money's worth. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. I hope I wasn't too boring for you. This was longer than I was expecting, but not as long as the last time I did a solo show, which is good. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. Sayonara.